Joined by head coach Mike Clark from Bridgewater Football. Coach, talk to us a little bit about last year's team coming into this year. Won a couple non-conference games and found it a little bit difficult once you got into the league last year. Talk a little bit about that experience and how you think it might morph into this year and you make up for that and come on back to get back to the top of the ODAC.
Well, I think there's a couple things. You're not what you've done in the past, whether that be good or bad. And you know, I'm done looking through that rear view mirror. You know, we have to kind of look forward. But there was no question. You know, a year ago, you know, we probably didn't have the maturity to manage success, which we had some big success early, and then certainly a couple difficult losses in the middle of the season set us back. Once we got knocked out of the conference race, we really weren't focused down the stretch. So, but for our purposes, those were issues. There's no question. When we sat down in November, we say, how are we going to fix this? And we're kind of looking out of the windshield now. The rearview mirror's past us. And we're putting ourselves in a position where we got to reestablish a base. Certainly, some of the decisions we have to make this year are going to be, hey, what's good for this program moving forward in the long term? And our focus really with the kids that I'm bringing back is going to be a week-to-week thing. That's what we have to do. What do I got to do to win Saturday? What do I got to do to try to put myself in a position to reestablish a foundation that allows Bridgewater to compete in a competitive league at a high level?
Well, to continue your car analogy, you've got a couple guys that have been driving the car for a while that both have the experience of looking in the rearview mirror, but know what it's like to come forward in the windshield. You've got a couple quarterbacks that know what they're doing, a couple guys that have run the ball in the past for you, and a few guys on the outside and on the line. Talk about what you see from your offense this year.
Well, we changed some things offensively. I think we had to try to get back to being more kind of a more tailback-oriented offense. I think the ability is our competition in this league has shown, you know, with the exception of Shenandoah, who's a pitch and catch team and has done that very well. You know, the people leading the charge in this league run the ball very well. I think to do that, it gives you a chance to take pressure off defenses, which are challenged, you know, in this day and age, just the way the rules are set. So I think that's what we're trying to do. Certainly having, you know, Jay Scroggins and Brendan Mettery both back in the program, both kids who have played in big games and have won big games for us, you know, over the last couple of years. That's going to be important. That's always going to be a positive. Using talented individuals on the offensive side of the ball and making them productive. Certainly, like even in Brendan's case, if he's not under the center, we need to be doing things with him where he's not standing over on the bench by me. He brings too much athleticism to the equation. Jay, if he stays healthy, you know, it might be in a Division III body, but he does have a Division I arm, and he can keep the field spread and make people accountable. The whole field's in play if Jake Scroggins is your quarterback.
Let's talk a little bit about the other side of the ball, your defense right now. A couple places, couple holes to fill, but so does everybody at this time of year when you're looking at your roster about what you got coming back and what you have returning. Talk about in general what you see for this unit this year and, you know, how you see they're going to play fast, they're going to play physical, that sort of thing. What do you see from the Eagles defense?
Well, I think returning, we're pretty solid on the umbrella, which I call in a 4-2-5. That's the back seven guys. We're not going to have a lot of depth in the defensive line, at least initially. That's going to be a developmental process for us when we get into the season. But that being said, the four guys that put their hand in the ground to start are all seniors. Mohammed Khan has gotten some accolades from an all ODAC perspective in his previous couple of years playing for us. You know, the other guys are going to have to step up. They've been solid role players, but if you're going to be the guy that gets your name announced over the public address system, you got to be a little bit better than a role player, and that's going to be the challenge that those guys have. I do think when you can run on the perimeter, you always have a chance, and certainly, you know, a year ago, I think the big challenge for us defensively, we created a lot of big plays. I think we were top in the league in sacks. We were top in the league in turnovers, but we also gave up a lot of big plays. And you know, in an era where explosion plays really becomes the number one factor on who wins or loses games, you know, that's something we're going to have to make a conscious effort to reduce on the defensive side.
When you take a look at the league, and you touched on this before, so I want to start there before we get into a full league overview, but you mentioned how that Bridgewater, you turned into a more tailback-oriented offense, and then started to talk about how the league is kind of like that. Expand on that a little bit more, because one of our other coaches that I've interviewed today talked a little bit about that as well, that the league is going from more of a pass-friendly one when you had Matt Plosky at Guilford and guys like Hayden Bosserman now at Shenandoah have gone from that to now more running back oriented with a Trey Frederick, with a guy coming in from Ferrum who we'll talk about in a minute, Brian Mann, that sort of thing. Josh Brees at WNL. Talk a little bit about what you see that offensive philosophy change throughout the league.
Oh, we have 3 tailbacks. I mean, the Guilford, WNL, and Randolph-Macon, those are national-type running backs. When they're on, they're just not good players in the ODAC. They're good players at Division III at the national level. Keep a perspective. I mean, I was on our defensive people after Brees had 180 yards on us rushing down there in the rain when we played WNL, and he had that many yards rushing on Mount Union, and he had more yards personally rushing on Mount Union in their game than Mary Hardin Baylor had in total offense in the national championship game. So that's like the type of player that we're trying to work with or defend, and I don't think there's any question. Good running backs, that have the ability to make people miss, that have the ability that if you miss them, you're going to chase them into, you'll be chasing them as they cross the end line. That's going to be a big challenge, and I think it's what we're going to face on a week-to-week basis, and certainly those teams that have that, back it up with good defense because they're able to take pressure off their defense. And sometimes you got to look around and you got to say, well, who's dancing well at the ball, and imitation is a form of flattery, but it's also a little bit of a reality you have to deal with. And certainly if you're going to play pitch and catch football in this league and run the potential of having quick drives, you better be Hayden Bosserman. You better be able to play at an extremely, extremely high level, or if not, it's going to be tough to win track meets.
In general, what do you see from the league this year, given that we have 2 changes that kind of stick out right there? Washington Lee has a coaching change, may or may not change things because Garrett's been there for a while, but then you also have a new program coming in Ferrum, and it's not just any old new program. This is an 8-2 squad that challenged for the USA South title.
No, I think Ferrum's there's no question. I remember when Ferrum came into the league, I talked to our AD, and I think it'll be a welcome addition, but it's a big challenge because Ferrum's one of the, don't kid yourself, it's a school where football matters, and they don't make any bones about letting people know that it matters. And so in that sense, hey, it's going to be a big challenge for us. But I also think this too, we're a league that, hey, there might not be a great team in it, but there's not a bad one. And I think the expansion of the league gives us a little bit of margin for error. I mean, if you run the table in this league, you are pretty good. So I think in that sense, you don't demean yourself, don't diminish yourself by surrounding yourself with quality competition, and certainly that's what the ODAC's done with that addition.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for joining me today. Good luck this season.
All right, thank you.